think happy.
New Lego SpongeBob! You can build your own bikini bottom and have a bubble-busting time with your favorite sponge and your best buddies. You can challenge your friends to a jellyfish fight, pull hilarious pranks, and create your own wacky SpongeBob adventures. Order up! It's time for some crazy underwater action with the new Lego SpongeBob playsets. Each set sold separately.
Hello random person, Sab Nino here. If you followed my channel for a while, you'd know that Lego doesn't make SpongeBob sets anymore, same with Mega Bloks. As a matter of fact, nobody really has exclusive rights to make sets. The US has Snap and Switch, China has Area X, and Japan has Jamor? We also have Sembo, Ballow, Build It. Long story short, the ownership is a free-for-all. Plus, anytime LEGO Ideas pitches any sort of SpongeBob set, it gets rejected, with the latest attempt at a Krusty Krab still being in review as of the time I'm recording this. But what if Nickelodeon decided to stick to one brand of building sets, and said brand was the one they partnered with first? How would they make sets today? What iconic locations and set pieces would they include? How would they handle minifigures? This was something that's been going through my head for a while. And since I'm an artist, I thought, why not put my money where my mouth is? Before I go into detail, I just want to say that I am far from a master builder. I build Lego and keep up with it, but I don't have a ton of experience in creating my own Lego sets. So if there's anything you think would improve on these builds, comment below. With all that said, let's begin. In any building set related to SpongeBob, typically one of the first sets they feature is the pineapple under the sea. Sometimes just the pineapple, sometimes the entirety of Conch Street, and lately, include SpongeBob and Squidward's house while Patrick gets evicted. The LEGO versions are honestly a decent start, and each version has at least one good quality to them. Bikini Bottom Adventures has the perk of having every house, Good Neighbors has the best accessories for SpongeBob's house, and Undersea Party has the best exterior builds. So I wanted to combine all of these attributes for my rendition of a modern Conch Street build. I've included all the iconic houses, along with made Patrick renew his lease. Each house has an interior, and I tried making this the definitive version of the houses. The first thing I wanted to fix was Patrick's rock, cause it always bothered me that it didn't function or even look like it does in the show. So instead I went for a brick built rock instead of two gray pieces, and I made it liftable. For Squidward's Easter Island head, I made it a dark gray color since the light gray in the original set isn't that accurate. I was going to do a grayish blue, but unfortunately they don't have a ton of bricks in that color. And I felt like a bright blue or dark blue would have been too flashy. Plus Squidward's house has a bit of gray in it, so it isn't completely inaccurate. The interior is pretty slim, but I took some liberties from Undersea Party. And that set Squidward's clarinet was brick built, which looks fine, but I think giving him a custom piece would make it more recognizable. The main attraction of the build is of course the pineapple, which has attributes of all three versions made by LEGO, with some touches to make it more accurate to the show. A lot of the interior builds are from Good Neighbors at Bikini Bottom, but I attempted to place them on the ground so it would be less cluttered. I really wanted to give it a second floor like this build somebody else did, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't line up the bottom plates in Studio 2.0. So I had to make the difficult compromise of placing SpongeBob's bed on the first floor. For play features, I included jellyfishing, bubble blowing, the imagination box, and just like every set before it, SpongeBob's bed is also a launcher. I was on the fence of either putting this or the bubble stand, since both of them are iconic. But since a LEGO Ideas set already included a bubble stand, and Snap and Switch is soon to have a Conch Street with the bubble stand as well, I went with the box. I also upgraded the minifigures by giving the characters dual molding and extra detail. If LEGO actually did this, I doubt it would be this elaborate. over it, but I'm still proud of how these turned out. Before I move on, I want to share my very first attempt at this build. It was meant to be a more accurate version of Conch with full interiors. Unfortunately, most of these pieces don't actually exist since I was still getting used to the program, but I'm still proud of how it turned out from a visual standpoint. The second most iconic location, and the most infamous in the LEGO community, is the Krusty Krab. LEGO has only made 2 of these. One that looks pretty good for the time, and another that takes many setbacks and even got basic details wrong. So I took more inspiration from the 2006 one opposed to 2009. But 2009's Krusty Krab Adventures had made some nice additions to the exterior that I've included. I also attempted to make the front more accurate by including an extra flag, building an antenna, and making the sign bigger. The interior is pretty much the same as the original set, just with minor tweaks such as changing the palette. I included a table and chairs, a safe, a dumpster, a cash register and grill with the same play features as the original set, and Mr. Krabs' office, which in hindsight I should have just got rid of. Look at how cramped he is. I added the paddy wagon as well, since how could it not be featured? I even made it so 2 people can sit in it, which was a complaint many people had with the official build. For the minifigures, I've included the Krusty Crew, Plankton, along with Fred since I thought he would make sense to feature as a customer. I also gave SpongeBob a custom Krusty Krab hat piece, and although I've considered giving Mr. Krab's big meaty claws, it never looked right to me, so I simply kept them as is. Despite being an iconic location, there's only 2 brick-built Chum Buckets in existence, Lego and Snap and Switch. The Lego one has some cool play features, though the Chum Bucket itself doesn't really look that accurate to me. Sure, it's cool, but the bolts in the center look a bit off, so I tried making it more accurate for mine, along with making the shape more rounded. The first floor has a restaurant area, and the second floor has Plankton's lab. Here's what I did for minifigures. I thought it would be cool to make a Karen since her mobile design pretty much overshadowed the original screen one, which I have no problem with whatsoever. I also included Robot Bob's sponge shift pants, and looking back, I don't think LEGO would actually build the body like this nowadays. In the original set, they placed a sticker for his face on a bunch of bricks. But I feel like if they did it now, then it's most likely they'd make either a new custom piece or make the entire face brick build like Mega Bloks did. Honestly, not much to say on this one. I just thought including the Chum Bucket was important. I considered including Mrs. Puff's boating school, but if I'm being honest, I think the original holds up really well. Outside of a few details such as the lighthouse, I'd honestly keep it the same. So I left it out since I feel like including the original build with slight tweaks wouldn't be that interesting. Another set I've considered was Sandy's rocket, but honestly I didn't think I could bring much new with that one either. Plus every time they include a Sandy set, it's typically the rocket, so I wanted to do something different. Sandy is an important character to feature, and it would be insulting not to include her. So another thing I considered was the tree dome, but I can imagine the dome not looking that great. Plus I didn't think including just her tree would have been super interesting. So how did I include Sandy? With Jellyfish Fields. This location never had a Lego set, so I thought it would be a nice way to spice things up. Plus the trio have been there a couple of times, notably in Squirrel Jelly and SpongeBob 4D, The Great Jelly Rescue. I included the field itself, a picnic area, and a jellyfish hive. Plus for play features, I added all the jelly related builds from the original Bikini Bottom set, since I feel like they'd be more fitting here. I gave SpongeBob his jellyfishing glasses since they never made a minifigure featuring them, and I attempted to give Sandy a tail. I also considered giving Patrick the savage face from all those memes, but I felt like it was way too oddly specific of a reference, and I didn't want Patrick looking uncharacteristically devious in a typical Jellyfish Field setting. Wanna know a character that's never gotten a Lego figure? Larry the Lobster.
I love it, I'm so excited, I just did a personal foul in my shorts.
The closest we have ever gotten was Mega Bloks. Since I was proud of how Jellyfish Fields turned out, I thought, why not include Goo Lagoon as well? It has a boat, some seats to relax in, some weights to lift, along with a snack bar. I made Larry a big fig since, well, he's big. I honestly don't know how well this would balance with his puny legs, so if Lego would need to downsize, then I wouldn't blame them. Also, how could I give SpongeBob a swimsuit minifigure and not reference ripped pants? I also added Scooter, since he's an underrated character that I thought would fit perfectly in this set. Another set of characters in SpongeBob that also never got the minifigure treatment is Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, and I'm very surprised they weren't featured in the set Heroic Heroes of the Deep. So I wanted to attempt to build the most iconic element of their superheroing, the invisible Boatmobile. This Boatmobile was a bitch to build, cause I had to look up every clear piece that ever existed, and as expected, there isn't a lot that could be used for this scenario. There are 0 usable invisible wheels, and the missiles I had to do in a light gray. So I guess this is the partially visible Boatmobile. I also included Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble, along with the ship they drove in Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5. And since this wouldn't be a Lego SpongeBob set without SpongeBob, him and Patrick are following the heroic chase in their official costumes. Plus I want a generic boat in at least one of these sets. I also gave Man Ray's car a Jellyfish launcher, since I thought that thing on the top would make for a cool play feature. But just like Larry, I don't know how stable this would be. One of the coolest characters in SpongeBob in my opinion is the Flying Dutchman. I love his ghostly pirate vibe, and I'm hella excited that he'll be the main antagonist in Search for SquarePants. However, when Lego decided to include him in a Lego set, they gave us this. A tiny ship with an island. I think they could have done better. So I spent 3 days giving the Flying Dutchman the Lego set he deserves. Behold! The Flying Dutchman ship. Built to be mostly accurate to the show. You can send people to the brig, and visit the Dutchman and his captain quarters. I know the bunk rooms are located where I put the brig, but I didn't realize until later into the build, plus I thought combining it with the Dutchman's front desk would look better. And like, it's a ship, and I don't think it would really be possible to have the bunk rooms inside the ship and have it still function like, well, a ship. To be honest, I have no idea if Lego would actually make a Dutchman ship this big, since this isn't as iconic as the pineapple or the Krusty Krab. But I feel like if they're willing to take the risk, then this would be an epic set. Around the time I made the original concrete builds, I made a Lego sculpture of SpongeBob. I thought it would be a cool addition to the lineup to have a display piece like this. But I could see them going for something with more play features, like the Build-A-Bob or the Lego Minion builds they made. So far, I've only been talking about the main show. But what about the spin-offs? Well, to the 20% who asked this, first off, I madly respect you, and second, here's a build of the dinghy cabin from Camp Coral. Looking back, I probably should have downsized it, cause this is a pretty big set. But I'm still proud of how accurate this looks. I included an interior with bunk beds and the tree dome with a functional slide feature. I didn't make the slide shape completely accurate because if I did, characters would get stuck in the slide. The minifigures were kinda tricky since I had to find a way to make them look shorter. Sadly, SpongeBob has the shortest legs period, so he's the same size, but everyone else I gave mid-legs. The Patrick Star Show has practically 0 merchandise. Other than 2 DVDs, a few games on a mobile app that isn't even related to the Patrick Show, and representation in Nick Kart Racers 3, we don't even get a drop of any sort of Patrick Show representation. And right now, the closest we'll ever get to that is any sort of gag the Patrick Star Show has about the show getting merchandise. Due to this, I didn't want to make a full-blown location, but instead a starter set to see how well a Patrick Star Show set would do. So I included the iconic TV where Patrick and Squidina do the Patrick Show. It has cannons that shoot mayonnaise, a skateboard, a table for cooking shows, and a box of props. The minifigures were an interesting creative challenge, especially Squidina. It bothers me that she's much bigger than SpongeBob in height, but sadly that's out of my control. and a baby minifigure body would have just looked weird. Oh, and I included Slappy since he's a regular audience member. Before I get to the next category of the video, here are some honorable mentions for builds that I've considered doing, but ended up scrapping for this video. As mentioned earlier, I've considered doing the boating school, Sandy's Rocket, and the tree dome. I left out the boating school since it's fine as is, and the two Sandy ideas since I thought Jellyfish Fields was a more unique location to feature her. Another location I've considered were Mr. Krabs' anchor and Mrs. Puff's house. I left them out since I thought they weren't as iconic as the other locations. Goofy Goobers could be a fun set, but I thought the ones I featured are better starter sets. Same with Globe World. I considered making a bigger version of it like I did with the Flying Dutchman ship, but I thought the Dutchman ship would have been cooler. But if I ever did a part 2 to this video, I would at least attempt it. So far I've only been discussing Lego sets. However, what if we expanded things even further? What if they made a minifigure series as well? So let's go over my ideas for a CMF. First up is Karate SpongeBob, with custom pieces for the helmet and gloves, along with a new angry face. Cause even though the original Lego SpongeBob has a ton of expressions, they never made him mad. What's good is a Karate SpongeBob without a Karate Sandy for him to fight. The only things that are different from the original Sandy design I've made is the same gloves as SpongeBob, just in a green color, and a new angry face. Can I say how difficult it is to make faces for Sandy? Her head shape is great, but the tooth is tricky for certain expressions. But it feels almost naked without it. But then again, Mega Block's interpretation lent itself better for that, so maybe I should have removed said tooth. Since Nickelodeon loves to shove memes down our throats, I'm sure CMF would do the same thing. So here's a surprised Patrick. I legit thought this would translate horribly as a minifigure due to his small head, but it worked better than I thought it would. Another meme I think they do is Primitive Sponge, since even though the meme is pretty much dead, they love to feature him in modern merchandise for some reason. Since I didn't make a boating school, I felt like Mrs. Puff would be a nice way to include her. Although I like the original Lego design, I thought it would be cool to attempt something more accurate. I gave her a custom body, minifigure arms with Technic pins, a stud for her hat since it gets the job done, and small legs. You absolutely know they would include Doodle Bob. Mega Bloks even did it for one of their CMFs. I'm unsure if they would make the pencil this big, so perhaps they downsize it or make it a custom piece so he could hold it in both arms like in the episode. Next up is Bubble Bass. Not much to say on him, but it would make sense to include him in this series. Since Bold and Brash is such an iconic part of SpongeBob, it felt appropriate to give Artist Squidward a minifigure. Since he's permanently frowning in the regular head, I thought a custom smiling head would do good. Not sure how they do the hat though. Perhaps either adding a stud or not including a hat at all could be good alternatives. Next up on the chopping block is Purse SpongeBob. I thought he would be an interesting addition solely for outfit variety. Plus it gives Nickelodeon an opportunity to pander even more to meme culture. Figuring out a Mr. Krabs minifigure to put in this set was honestly challenging. I was in between the Pretty Patties meme and the Mad Max outfit for Sponge Out of Water. But I ended up going with Boat Wash Krabs. I gave him a radio and that one Mr. Krabs stock art face that everyone uses. Unfortunately, Lego minifigures lack cake, so I can't let you see that, Krusty. For more outfit options, I felt like SpongeBob Underpants would be a cool inclusion as well, since he is frequently shown in tidy whities in the show. Plus, if they ever wanted to do another theme song remake, they wouldn't have to strip him nude. Here's Sweet Victory SpongeBob from the most overhyped episode of the series, Band Geeks. Since modern merch loves to include him in this outfit, I think Lego would follow suit. I feel like they would give him the aggressive singing face since everyone else does it, but I included his eager face to spice things up. One of the fun challenges of this set was figuring out how to include background fish, since the original line we only got 3, with only the Dr. Fish being one actually from the show. Right now we have Fred, Scooter, Bubble Bass, although nowadays he's more of a side character, so why not include Tom, since he's both a meme and a recognizable background character. Now Lego Tom and Fred can go to the Shell Shack and see the talking dog. Remember how creepy the original Squidward head was? Not only was the head shape off, but I have no idea why they made him smile when he's typically frowning. stunning. Despite it not working well for normal Squidward, I think it translated decently well for handsome Squidward. Honestly, I did this because I was too lazy to make a new mold for his head, plus I feel like this would be the route they would actually take. Since there's no Treedome set, I included Treedome Sandy in this line. Some people have made their own interpretation of this design, so I thought it would be nice if they released an official one. The final minifigure I've included is the I'm a Head Out SpongeBob, since he's also a pretty popular meme. It's even included on one of my pairs of socks. Not sure if the chair would fit in the box/bag, but I felt like it would feel off without it. So if it doesn't fit, then downsizing it might be a good alternative. Now that I went over all the minifigures I'd include in this line, here's some honorable mentions that I've left out or ran out of room for. Pinhead Patrick. Although I think he would translate perfectly as a Lego minifigure, since someone else already created one and sold it, I felt like doing something unique. William Fancyson. I wouldn't be against this idea, especially since Mega Bloks included him in one of their CMFs. I just don't know if they'd actually go with him due to him practically being dead in the show itself. Larry the Lobster. I was originally going to put him in here, but due to running out of room, plus being unsure if he'd fit, I gave him a dedicated set instead. Mocking SpongeBob. Although Nick loves this meme to death, I simply don't think he would translate well as a minifigure. Cause although it would look decent in the front, it would simply feel off to have the beak be flat. And I highly doubt Lego would make a new SpongeBob head shape just for this meme. Pearl Krabs. I would be all for Pearl getting minifigure rep, since neither Lego or Mega Bloks has included her. But I felt like the picks I've made would have had a higher chance of being featured. Perhaps she could be in a CMF2 or a Gal Pals themed set. Bubble Buddy. I didn't include him since he would just be a clear minifigure, which I thought would have been lame. So that was my idea for a Lego SpongeBob comeback. I unfortunately don't think this will happen anytime soon, but maybe we'll get something similar or even better in the future. What do you guys think of these ideas? Which locations/characters would you include? Should I make a part 2 to this video? Comment below. And as always, it's all Sab from here.